Okay, everyone. Sorry for the slight delay. This is Gary St. Fleur. This is Save Scranton Radio. We're live. Had some slight technical difficulties. Someone called me the hour earlier, and they should call the show. They know who they are. And I just want to say, I hope everyone's having a wonderful evening. I'm all getting happy that you all can make it tonight. We're going to talk about some interesting things. If you guys seen the post on Facebook, I gave a list about topics that we're going to discuss tonight. But in addition to that, I just want to let everyone know that shows are now being recorded. They're not just live, but they're also recorded, and they will be made available on Save Scranton /radio. They'll all be archived. You'll have a date there. You can get a link. It'll be on YouTube, so you just listen to it on YouTube, and you can get every episode there. So if you call in and you want to hear yourself, you can do so over there. Again, if you want to call in, the number is 570-921-2344. And let's begin with the show. It's a great day. A little bit of sun. I've been really, really bothered by the fact that it's been snowing, or it did snow the day before, and I'm not a big fan of the snow. I know some people are, but I'm not one of them. So I'm really hoping that the little bit of sun that we got today is a picture of things to come, because that would be so cool. Okay, now let's talk about some recent news. Lackawanna College has just announced that they will be hosting or creating a new program for esports. Now, for those of you who don't know what esports are basically electronic sports, if you want to say that, or digital sports. What that basically means is that, you have people who are professional game players. We reached a point where games have become so lucrative. They have become such a crowd pleaser or draws enough attention that has been considered a professional sport. Now, to get an idea of just how much of a sport and how much money is involved in this, in the article that was featured in the Times Tribune, they talked about that the program will be hosted in fall and will begin cultivating a team where Lackawanna College students will be able to compete with the biggest single cash payout from one game was upwards of $3 million. So it's going to be interesting to see and to note that going forward, esports is going to be huge. It's probably going to be, if not already, as big as traditional sports. Now, you're always going to have your naysayers. You're going to have people on two different sides of the coin. Ones are going to say things like, this is bad because it lacks athleticism. It lacks skill and ability. But again, I think that times change, things change, and it's important for us to embrace it, because whether we like it or not, the world is going to move forward and make advancements. So, and I always believe that things don't have to be one way or the other. It doesn't have to be all or nothing, right? It can't just be like, we'll still have basketball, football, and other athletic sports, but we'll also have this particular niche for people who are interested in it. And it'll be great, because people who are good at this, they should be rewarded for their talents, and they are. A long time ago, interestingly enough, back when I was in college, a colleague and I was thinking about the idea of creating a platform called Coliseum. Now, what the platform was going to do is facilitate games and allow individuals to exchange money for games. The idea was actually to bring some professionalization and skills associated with game playing. And now it's to the point where this happens. There are plenty of organizations that have gone into this space, and now people can actually play money or bet money or exchange money for games. And that's great. Imagine, who knows? Going forward, the ways that people make money now are probably unforeseen in the past. Like if you think about it, a good example would probably be YouTube. You have something called influencers. Influencers are these individuals that go on YouTube with a cell phone or a camera. They take video of themselves. They talk about their day. They express their feelings. And the top YouTubers have made millions doing this. And this is not any exaggeration. They've made millions. And that's pretty exciting, that a whole new market, a whole new means of creating opportunity has opened up with technology. And that's exciting because that's what, a lot of times what technology does. Google, when it first came out, allowed people to create websites and put Google ads on there and make a living for themselves. I know one guy who made a website that was a tutorial for drums and drum sets. And he was making enough to sustain himself just through the ads alone. Another person was doing it for mobile phone news. Again, making about $90,000 to $100,000 a year. And the more these apps or these technologies come out, the different avenues and different ways people can make an opportunity for themselves or open up. And it's really cool. So I do applaud Lackawanna College for that. I think that it would be great just to promote the interest into this avenue. Because again, I'm sure some people think that really video games, is that real? Like, can people actually do something and wasting their lives? Yeah, you say that until you realize that someone like KSI, who's not only a YouTuber but a gamer, has made enough millions to buy a mansion and a Lamborghini. People will always downplay something until it starts making dollars. Then they start saying, I should have, jumped on the bandwagon while it was still, moving. And there are countless examples of that. So that's cool. Another thing is that Lackawanna Commissioner's Office will be actually voting on a little ordinance concerning increasing the registrations fee for vehicles. Now, anyone who knows about Save Scranton or about my position on raising fees is I am against the raising of anything. And of course, that leads to the next question. If you're not going to raise fees, if you're not going to raise taxes, how does the city make money? That's interesting. What do companies do, right? When you're a startup, let's say you're starting a company from scratch. You have a great idea, and that's the tall and short of it. You have a great idea, and hopefully, or maybe you have some skill. Let's say that you want to create a new invention. Now, you're going to need investors if you're going to go that route. Depending on how the market is doing at that time, you're going to have to make some tough decisions. Maybe the venture capital or angel investment is not there for you or available to you. So therefore, you're going to have to find some other means to get your invention to come to fruition. With that said, you might make it yourself, make your prototypes, try to get some initial sales through consignment, and then use that money to build the rest of your inventory. Now, while you're doing that, and let's say you started getting sales, the one thing you cannot do, which wouldn't be advisable, is to begin raising the prices of your products, especially if the market doesn't have any demand for it or will not meet you at that price. What you will learn to do, if you want to survive as an enterprise, is cut costs, is to be more efficient, to find out how to make the same quality of goods or provide the same quality of service at lower costs. Now, government is normally or usually what's called a service business, that they don't create something, they don't make something, they provide a service. But the same thought process applies to service organizations also. Even service companies cannot levy costs on their customers and expect their customers to remain. So what can governments do? What can Lackawanna do? I believe that we need to change from this notion that the government exists merely to tax and to toll and to create fees to one in which they should create value. Now, I know that's like an inversion of what people consider government. Like government's there to provide, I guess, services. But I always think that no, once you receive any money for anything, regardless of the situation, the onus is on you to provide a certain value, a certain level of value to the people who gave you this money. It doesn't matter if it's a donation. It doesn't matter if it's a tax. It doesn't matter if it's money for the sale of a good. Now, with that said, that the government should begin having this. Like, we should even have an index where if the general income or the average income of the environment is not, or the neighborhood or the municipality is not increasing, then the salaries of the government employees should increase either. Why should the people who run the government have in salary increases if the rest of the society or the rest of the municipality or the local area are not experiencing the same gains? If these gains are through, like, I guess in the contract they argue that there's inflation happening and that these gains are part of the general market direction. If that's the case, then the people who live there should also be having an increase in their median income. And if there aren't, then no one should. No one should. There should be indexes and benchmarkers for success. There was a report that I wrote on Japan that they were beginning to entertain the idea that their pensions needed to have an incentive to perform. Now, I have my own, position on that in terms of chasing risk or trying to seek what's called alpha and attempting to use alternative investments to try to reap returns. It's dangerous because it creates what's called volatility, which also may lead to excessive or recurring losses, which is something that if anyone knows anything about pensions, especially government pensions, they can't afford because most of them are underfunded as it stands now. But the idea that they recognize that there should be incentives, that they said that they don't want the investment managers who manage the funds of the pensions to be compensated for lack of performance. That's just common sense, right? Why would anyone expect to be compensated when there is a lack of performance? What are you being compensated for? Just for existing? How do you justify the fees that you levy? So therefore, if Lackawanna County or Scranton, the government Scranton, lacks funds, they should seek to obtain funds by being a better county or a better city. Right? They should make policies that would attract more people to the city. You widen the tax base, you get more revenues. That is how they should receive money. Not through taxing the people who remain, because that's actually self-defeating. Illinois is attempting to do the same thing. Illinois last year had a problem where their budget wasn't passed. They had $15 billion in unpaid bills. This is around August. And they had $800 million in interest fees alone on the unpaid bills. During an emergency session, they decided to raise property taxes by 33%. Illinois, in addition to Connecticut, happens to be the states with the highest amount of residents departing. And of course, the city of Scranton is no stranger to that. At one time, having a population of 150,000 to 75,000. And my bet is that it would be worse if a lot of the 60, and in a sense, kind of stuck. If this place was a more youthful population, they would see even greater declines. Then what would they do? Increase taxes on the remaining people? That doesn't make any sense. There's only so much you can tax people. What, are you going to tax their entire income? So that's my whole position on fees and taxes. Again, I understand that the government needs funds to operate, but you need to operate with a certain level of efficiency and professionalism. If you cannot, then why do you exist? Why do you serve a function? What function do you actually serve? And this is one of the things where I become a stickler about the need for less government. And again, it's not so corporations necessarily can take the space, because the corporations aren't necessarily good either. But to free up disposable income, to give the population, the people, a better chance at having more money, more opportunity for investment, more opportunity for consumption. It's better for everyone. It's better for the local communities, better for the entrepreneurs. It's better for nearly every facet of our society. And that's something I greatly encourage, and I believe that it needs to happen. Now, again, if you are interested in calling in, the number is 570-921-2344. Anyone who knows me know that I can go on all night speaking. But even before this, I was talking to a friend of mine who wanted to ask me how I became the way I am. She met this in a very, kind way, in the sense that she thinks that I have some unique talents and whatnot. And she wanted, what's my origin? What's my raison d'etre, right? Like in a comic book. How did I become the person I am today? Interesting to note that it's hard for me to answer that question. And the reason that being is because I'm not exactly sure. The reason being is because, there are so many things I can pinpoint to suggest as a reason as to why I'm the way I am. But nothing actually sticks out as a singular justification. One thing that is interesting is that I do have a sibling, and my brother is very similar to me in certain ways, even though we don't agree on a lot of subjects. I tend to think that he's a bit extreme. But then again, people think I'm extreme, so maybe we share a lot of tendencies after all. But definitely, we do have the same tendencies to have an interest in history, on politics, in society. We have this inclination to be able to regurgitate figures and statistics and numbers, understand relations or correlations between things. Correlation doesn't imply causation. Personally, I've always had an affinity for logic and philosophy. One of my biggest influences has been Socrates and the works of Plato, speaking through Socrates, or vice versa, depending on your perspective, right? And I think that philosophy is something that's missing from our society that is very important. To be specific, the philosophical position, especially from the Western tradition, at least attempted to begin asking questions and inquiring about our society and about our surroundings. In fact, almost every subject that we now hold dear has its roots in philosophy. What we call science is just natural philosophy. What we call mathematics is symbolic philosophy. Even history had a philosophical position, or was viewed through the guise of philosophy. And it's disheartening that our society is no longer interested in philosophy the way, in the past, in a sense. And that's trying. That's very detrimental. It's detrimental because the ability to ask questions and to seek answers, the ability to believe that there is investigations that can be made and it can yield answers isn't very important. Hold on, I'm getting a call. Hello, you're on the air. Hello? Hello?
Hello, you're on the air. Hello, Gary.
Yeah, you're going to have to turn down
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hello, hello, hello.
Okay, turn down what?
The radio in your background.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. How about there?
All right, that's good.
Better?
Yes. Okay. How you doing?
Goodness. I'm hearing myself on delay. It's kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yes.
I wanted to chime in on, why people's lack of interest on philosophy.
Oh, interesting. Okay. This is gonna be interesting. Go ahead. Hello.
Well, today's society is getting their information from Facebook. Um, and most people think that that's an education.
So you're the camp that social media is the culprit. Hello.
Yes, you know what? Nowadays, people seem to think that whatever is presented to them is not even like questionable. They don't even question it.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a symptom. I think it's a symptom of a greater issue. Yes, people don't question things, but I don't think they were questioning things before. I think that for the past 100 years, probably, there's been a decline in philosophical inquiry. And there's actually a whole history behind it. If you study the history of thought or philosophy, there's different philosophical ages, one in which is called modernism. Modernism took place around the late 18th century or 1800s to the 1900s. And what modernism promoted is the idea that through science and investigation, we could solve all the problems of the world. The unfortunate circumstance is that it also led to two world wars, fascism, communism, and the deaths of millions of people. And so the age that we're in now is what's considered postmodernism. And that's characterized by a lack of faith or a resignation to the disheartened reality that modernism gave us. And I think with that, create a cynicism where people no longer believe that ideas can really change anything, that people will fall to their primitive urges, and also the decline of religion, also, or just speculative thought. And I think the culmination is the fact that we no longer question things on Facebook and that we just accept everything we heard or just don't even care. Or I think also that we're very consumer oriented, where consumerism takes a great deal of our interests.
Well, I think that social media, for whatever reason, although it's a valuable tool to market information like on a massive scale, is not being utilized properly, and people are so quick to believe everything that they see on social media rather than researching, picking up a book or picking up or watching the news. It's amazing how many people actually get their information from websites like Facebook.
Okay, where do you think people should get the information from then?
Well, back in the day, people used to pick up a book, go to the library, research things. I think that's pretty rare anymore. But what's common is is more like just jumping on their social media to get whatever information they want. Now, this is supposed to be this is so distracting with I'm hearing myself in the background.
Yeah, you're supposed to turn it off.
Okay. But then I can't hear you. I don't hear you on the phone.
You don't hear me on the phone? You should be hearing me through your phone.
Nope,
That's odd.
not at all.
That's odd. Give me a second. Let me fix that.
I hear you from my laptop.
And you're calling me through your phone. How about this? Try calling back.
Okay.
Okay. Social media, the reason for our decline of interest in philosophy. I'm not sure. I mean, if we were philosophically inclined and we did have social media, we would just use it to. Okay, can you hear me now? Hello, caller.
Nope, still the same issue.
Wow, that's interesting. I'm not sure why that is. You should be hearing me.
There's a delay, and it's still coming across the laptop.
It shouldn't come across the laptop. You should be hearing me directly through your phone. Okay, we lost. Let me see if I can just. All right, hold on. Let me try to figure out what's going on with this. This is the first time this has happened. But yeah, please think about that. Is social media the reason why we no longer have an interest in philosophy? Is that what's going on? All right, I'm going to deal with this issue real quick. You guys dance some tunes. Okay. I think I figured out the problem. Can you hear me, caller?
I can hear you. I can hear you from my phone now.
Exactly. There's a lot of wires. I have a mixing station, and there's all these wires. And I'm not an audiophile in any sense of the imagination. Therefore, I took it for granted that you could put the wires in any configuration you want, but you can't. They have to be in a particular kind. So I could memorize this. I got lucky the first couple of times I had someone call in and do this, but now I know exact configuration. So you believe in social media. I think that, I don't know. I mean, I'm be
That's a
honest.
big contributing factor. Like back in the day, you know, you were taught about your Aesop's fables and Socrates and Plato and all of these great philosophers. Nowadays, I don't think that they even have that in the curriculum, especially out in this neck of the woods. So we're not taught to be thinkers. And now, for the majority of the people, they go on social media and they take what they see as fact. It's amazing. It's amazing that people are dumbed down in the era when we have all of this information available that you can easily research anything you want. You don't have to go to a library anymore. But for whatever reason, like this society's gotten very lazy, very comfortable, and that they don't question what's put up. You can just put up a meme. It can be, you know, any baloney whatsoever. Put it into a meme, make it into a post, and just post it. And you can even boost the post. For a few dollars, you can boost that post, and it'll get circulated, and before you know it, they think it's fact. Not even question it.
Well, that is true. I mean, that's I think behind the whole fake news controversy, right? Where after the election of Donald Trump, people began saying that, oh, it was all these fake articles on Facebook. And I find that questionable. Not that they weren't fake. I think they were fake news everywhere. But why did people fall for it? You know, why didn't they question what they were receiving? You know, that should be
Because
that
that's the society we live in. Everybody's dumbed down. Nobody questions anything.
that's the thing. And I think, you know, all right. So let's deal with a little bit of history. A lot of people, I'm not sure if they know this or not, but the formulation of the public school education was, for the most part, a recent event, to the point where the Department of Education is not even, I want to say, 80 years old. It's not. It was created within a turn, I believe, the 1960s, 1970s. So there was no Department of Education before then. There was changes made in the school system to reflect what a lot of the people in the pedagogical tradition, or the pedagogical field, pedagogy being the whole philosophy or field of actual teaching. They began believing that a lot of immigrants were coming to America. A lot of people were leaving their farms and going into more urban areas. They needed to create a public school system. They created a public school model. Now, this model was never actually intended to teach what's called higher order learning skills. It was meant to teach them how to read basic reading, basic arithmetic, and to hurry up and go back to the factory floor. So there's something called Bloom's taxonomy, which talks about the different kinds of learning there is. You know, memorization being the lowest kind. Then I believe is understanding. Then evaluation, analysis. Then the top is creation. Be able to create your own position or to use the information that's been given to you to create a different perspective or a different system of thinking. In school systems, memorization or rote learning is a primary method of instruction. And this is why a lot of people hate school, because you're not allowed to freely associate or to imagine, which is, I think, is a natural affinity for human beings. You're not allowed to explore different ideas or different perspectives. You have to stick to a strict curriculum that's based on multiple choice, and that's just very dogged and narrow. And the end result, as I think a lot of people dislike thinking, dislike learning, dislike what they think is education, and they just now are older and don't have the skills of critical analysis, of evaluation, of analysis, of thinking that one should have as an adult. And I believe that's a great deal of what's transpiring. You know, you asked me earlier about how I became to where I was. One of the interesting things about my past is that I read Socrates on my own when I was in high school. It was a part of my school curriculum.
Well, at least there's got to be a drive then that put you onto your path. So whatever secret that was, if you can delve deep into your history, find out what it was that gave you that drive, so you could share it and maybe initiate a whole bunch of free thinkers, because there seems to
trust
be a
me,
lack of them.
If I could, anyone who knows me personally knows that's like my dream. That if I could, I would want everyone to be an independent thinker. They don't have to even think like me. Just think. Like one of the things that my friends tell me, personal friends, you know, they tell me like, Gary, I know what you probably want out of me or anyone else, to be a better person. I was like, yes, that's fundamentally what I want from people, to be better for themselves, for each other, for our society. So if I could, I would package it up and sell it on the street like a drug dealer. I would hawk it like a mad salesman. I don't know how. I wish I did know how to cultivate the love of learning that I have. I don't know, because I hated school. I hated public school. So don't think I was a good student. I was a horrible student up until my college years. So even in college I started doing better. But up until that time, I hated school.
Yeah, but you still had a drive to learn.
That is true, but I think that I didn't let, Mark Twain has a famous quote. He says that I never let my schooling interfere with my education. And I think I'm the same way. That I recognize how school was set up to make me actually hate learning, but I never let it do it. If my experience with learning was just solely based on school, I would end up hating learning, hating it also. But it wasn't based on that. It was based on my learning outside of school. It's the things I did outside of school that made me love learning. It was going to the park. Remember I told you before I was a junior park ranger. So going to the park and looking at trees, learning different kind of trees they are, the different kind of animals in the ecosystem, the different kind of fish in the water, just learning these things, learning how they relate to each other, how they work as a system. That was interesting to me. They took me outside the classroom. I was out there in the park looking at it and seeing it. Going to the museum and hearing the tales, like, these stories of these people in the past and the great things they did. It was very inspiring to me. But the dry lessons in the classroom were just very, very boring. And I tuned out most of the time. I would daydream when I was in school.
Yeah, well, you know what? At the end of the day, look, this is the outcome. So that kind of like light bulb that went off in your head. How do we get the mainstream society to start lighting up their light bulbs? Those things, I mean, sometimes you can come across people daily. I talk to a bunch of people daily. I'm one of them. I'm friendly. I'm sociable, and I'm out there. Now, I see that the elevator doesn't make it all the way to the top. And a lot of people, they're like programs, and whatever they were programmed to do, their job, that they function. They function at that capacity. They don't think outside the box. That light bulb doesn't click when the elevator doesn't make it to the top. And I see that all too commonly, and it's like, wait a second. Like, how in the world can we get people to start thinking, get that light bulb to, just to flicker on, and for people to start thinking on their own? Because the things that they do or say do not make sense, or there's another solution that's just outside the box. But if they were free thinkers, they would be able to come up with that on their own. You understand?
Oh, I completely, I definitely completely understand, because I had a lot of the times in the past show, this show that is, I talk about different opportunities that are available to people. Like in the beginning, I talked about esports. Like, yeah, it's a real thing. Like, there could be a listener who has an affinity for video games, and I'm letting them know there are opportunities for you if you are good at video games. And a lot of times it's out of sight, out of mind, that we don't know about certain opportunities, so we don't take advantage of them. But that's what thinking does, because one of the big things that I'm on is Google it. Google it. Google is your friend. So a lot of times when my friends ask me something, they already know. The first thing they have to say to me is that they Googled it and they did some research already. Because if they did not, they know I'm going to tell them, did you Google it? And they say, no. I'm going to say, I'm not going to answer your question then. Because we should be proactive in acquiring knowledge. And now, more than ever, it's easier to do so. It's the easiest it's ever been in the history of mankind. We can actually just ask the Google questions and get information. Get 10 articles, good articles on what we seek to know. But how do we ignite that in people? I'm going to have to humbly say, I don't know. I know I tend to be a know-it-all. But that's one thing I'm going to have to really think about and meditate, maybe pray on. How do you get people to love learning? How do you get people to be passionate? I guess one way is for them to see its relevance. Like I think like entrepreneurship is a good example. Like for anyone who didn't have a skill and had to learn something or do something to start a business venture and it succeeded, that probably ignited a love of learning because it had an attachment to things that they value, which is like money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there have been plenty of times when I picked up a skill, I learned to do something. Even in Scranton, like my resume now looks crazy. Like I look like a superstar now because I had over 30 press clippings in the past year.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so and I didn't think about it because I didn't do the things that I did because of that. I wasn't trying to increase my resume or anything like that. But then I was working in a program, or I was attempting a venture, and they wanted my resume. So I was like, I don't even have a resume. So I created it, and I sent it to them, and they were so impressed. They're like, man, this is so impressive. And I was like, really? And I started thinking about it. I was like, yeah, I guess that is kind of impressive, right? Yeah, that is true. But these are things that I would never have done if I didn't believe in the change of Scranton, decided to go about doing it, decided to do these things. Remember, we're talking about after the fact. When I first came here in 2015, if you told me that, yeah, you'd be in national magazines or this you'll be in WNEP and Times Tribune and WBRE and the radio and Wells Fargo and Bloomberg and et cetera, I wouldn't even believe it. But it did happen. But that goes to show that I always talk about in this broadcast how people should follow their passions. Follow your passions. My passion led me to do those things, and it led to a lot of opportunities. Like at any moment, I could send my resume out and get a job to do anything I want. And I didn't go out. I didn't set out to do that. But that's what it led to. So,
That's what I call blessings.
Huh?
Those are blessings. Those are blessings.
Yeah. So but I think that those blessings are available for anyone. Just follow your passion. Find out what you're passionate about. Like start there, because learning about something that you're already passionate about will give you an incentive to learn about it because you already have a passion about it. I said in the last broadcast, I think last night or 2 nights ago, that I met a gentleman, not a young gentleman, an older gentleman. I was in his house doing some work for him, and then he said, "Listen, I'm an inventor." And I was like, "Really?" He said, "Yes, I'm an inventor. Come look at my inventions." And he brings me to his basement and begins showing me all these inventions. And in my mind, I'm reeling. I'm like, this guy is presiding over like millions of dollars worth of inventions. So I'm asking him like, so why aren't you a millionaire? Why aren't you selling them? And he said he doesn't have a business mind. He doesn't have a business mind. He's creative. He knows how to invent things. He doesn't know how to sell things. So I told him, I said, listen, if you need help selling these things, I will help you. And he said, listen, this is my passion. He said, this is my passion. I know everything about these inventions and these products. I know everything about them. I can wow people. Just bring me in front of the right people. So that's what I'm going to do for him. I'm meeting with this gentleman again this Saturday. I'm going to help him write a business plan, help him get an LLC, help him do everything, and put him in front of the right people. But he got this because he had a passion. He met someone. He don't know who I am. He didn't know my background, but he shared his passion with me. And now his passion is allowing him the opportunity to venture to, because I am convinced that if this guy's not a millionaire by the end of the year, I would actually be shocked. So as crazy as it sounds, following your passions, because I believe we all have a purpose. We all have something that, you know, God, nature, whatever you want to call it, puts into our hearts that drives us. And if we point towards that, if we incline ourselves towards that, then I think something can be ignited, because it's really who you are, and it creates what's called flow. Flow is this term in psychology that says that when you're doing something that's really purposeful and meaningful, time disappears. You don't even notice the time anymore. Right? Like when I'm talking about the things that I'm passionate about, this broadcast takes like 5 minutes because I don't even notice that an hour passed. And there's something that everyone has that's like that, and they need to delve into that. And the beauty is, again, because it's 2018, you can take your cell phone and talk about your passion and find other people who are as passionate about that very thing, and then monetize. How do you monetize? Market something, create something, link up with people who are already working on something and help them. Someone just contacted me recently saying, Gary, you have this show. I want to help you. You need to find interviewers. You need to find, you need to get information. I want to help you do it. Who knows, again, what that would lead to? Because I of course, I'm accept it, but it could lead to something else, because I plan to create other shows, bigger shows, even national, and get syndicated. And of course, this person, I'm going to take him with me. And so he just did something from being compelled from his own heart, but look what it could lead to.
Very interesting.
Indeed. So maybe that's the answer. That I often think that people spend too much time worrying about other people's business, right? What I mean by that is,
You're absolutely right.
Oh yeah, like mind your business is like a really important phrase, because it's true. Mind your business. What are your business? What are you doing? And it's like people are so caught up in what other people are doing, and it doesn't matter what it is, right? And I think that's the part of the issue with social media. I think that you're harking on that. Social media is really about, right, talking about things, but it's like, what are you doing though? Like, you know, fine, the other people are doing things. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you working on? And the things that you can, if you want to learn how to program, you have Code Academy, which is a free program online that will teach you how to program. And people say, oh, can it be any good? I tell you right now, one of my college classmates, he went into journalism, got into journalism, hated it, quit, became a waiter, hated being a waiter, sat down with Code Academy for a year and some other sites that are free, taught himself how to program, and now he's making 6 figures as a programmer.
Interesting.
True story. And he actually, one of the first things he did is went to his friends and tell them, oh, look how I became a programmer. Here's the tutorial. Here's the things that I did. You can do the same thing. So if you're interested, here. And now he's spreading it. He's sharing his passion with his friends, and now his friends who are interested in programming can now become programmers too. And I'm actually doing programming myself because I've always been fascinated by it, and I've decided to, you know, really delve into it. I already know how to program in HTML and CSS, but that's really simple, you know, it's programming. I also know some JavaScript, but I'm now learning C++, and I'm taking it to the next level because I actually do have a vision, a passion. I have a passion that I want to see fulfilled. It's an app that I always wanted to create for the past couple of years, that I decided that if it's going to exist, the only way it's going to exist if I create it, because I can't necessarily depend on someone else to do it. And that's why I'm learning how to program. So I guess passions can help ignite a curiosity and learning, because in order to fulfill your passions, you might have to, you know, learn some skills to do so.
Mm-hmm. It's true, because you have more enthusiasm.
And that's important. So can you believe that it's almost 8 o'clock,
Already.
right? Thanks for calling. You've been great. Great question.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem. No problem.
For answering.
Yeah, but next time, I'm pretty sure you're working on some interesting things. I know that you're instrumental in the community, and this is a great platform to share those things with our listeners.
I like to move under the radar.
Oh man, isn't that the way in Scranton, right? Everyone in Scranton wants to move under the radar.
Yeah, but I think what is it? It is a saying. It says, "Deep oceans run silent.
Yes.
Shallow waters are noisy."
Yeah. Deep waters run still, something like that. I know the quote you're referring to.
Yeah. Deep waters run silent, and noisy waters are shallow. But I'm a deep ocean.
Yeah, but you still have things that you're doing for the community in order for the community to know about them. What'd be interesting? No, I just actually thought about something. I have an idea.
What else is new?
You know what Scranton needs?
What?
Scranton needs a Spanish radio show.
Well, I've been seeing that, and actually, one politician that I'm going to leave nameless, he was supposed to arrange a sit-down so we can start organizing for a TV, because we need news in Spanish. Telemundo and Univision, they show you news from other parts of the world, but they don't know that down the block in the neighborhood, on the local news, in English, there's a rash burglary. Be on the lookout for this, or be on the lookout for that. So they can't, they're not aware. Maybe they've seen something, maybe they need to look out for something, and that's going on in their own backyard, but they don't know this. They don't know this because
I think I have a host in mind.
Is that right?
Yeah. I think I have a host. I have the setup already. Everything we need to have the Spanish radio show.
Wow, that would be very exciting. Years later.
Huh?
Years later from when I made that request, the radio or TV, something. Here it is. It's funny. It's coming out of nowhere.
Exactly right. Now you don't have to wait for them. We can do it on our own.
Well, that sounds like fun, and it sounds like it's necessary.
Hey, I can set you up, Blanca. Just let me know.
Oh boy.
Just let me know.
My resume looks a little crazy the way it is.
Hey, all you need the thing about it too is that yours don't have to be a live broadcast, right? So it could be a pre-recording if you're just telling news. So you can just record and then upload it, so you don't have to actually take calls and things like that. Because I'm pretty sure that can be time consuming. But you can pre-record in advance. Just detail the news, all the things you want to share, and give it to me, upload it to me, and I can just share it.
Okay.
Yeah.
My dance fund is getting pretty full. I have the festival coming up in September.
I mean, think about it. If the listenership increases, you can also have sponsored news, right?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, we're plotting on air. All right, let's take this conversation off air. Thank you for calling. You've been wonderful. Let me wrap this show up. Okay.
You have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, everyone. That is the show. Seems like we have a new venture that I'm working on. This, interesting tidbit. I believe the Latino population in Scranton is upwards of 10%, if you could believe that. That's roughly 7,500 people. It would be interesting to create something for them, now that I have this broadcasting skill, right? Okay, I thank all of you for tuning in tonight. It's been a great program. I thank our caller for calling in and sharing her thought process, and I hope that my advice about following your passions and maybe that leading towards igniting a love for learning, because your passions usually correlate with some type of things you need to know, can inspire a lot of people. And I thank you for listening. You want to reach me again, number is 570-921-2344. The email is savescranton1@gmail.com. You all have a wonderful night and take care of yourselves. God bless.